The exploratory vessel Starlight drifted through the empty void of space, its engines humming quietly as it approached the edge of humanity's mapped territory. Captain Han Ji-won stood on the bridge, her dark eyes fixed on the vast starfield beyond the viewscreen. The ship was small by military standards, just 120 meters long with a crew of 42, but it represented 5 years of her life and countless technological innovations hidden beneath its modest exterior. "Captain, long-range scanners are detecting unusual energy signatures," said Officer Bae Sung-min, his fingers dancing across the control panel. "Multiple objects approaching from Sector 7. Ji-won nodded calmly. "On screen, please." The view screen shifted, and the bridge crew fell silent. Emerging from behind a small moon were ships, massive vessels that dwarfed the starlight like whales beside a minnow. Their hulls gleamed with a metallic purple sheen, adorned with strange symbols and lined with what were clearly weapon ports. "Count 17 vessels," reported Security Chief Kong Eun-ho. "The smallest is roughly 8 times our size." Ji-won maintained her composure. "Yellow alert. Raise passive shields but keep weapons offline. Let's not appear threatening." The alien fleet approached with surprising speed, spreading out to surround the human vessel. The formation was clearly military, practiced and precise. "They're scanning us," said Engineer Park Min-ho from his station. "Should I activate our defensive systems?" "No," Ji-won replied. "Not yet. Let them see what we want them to see." The main viewscreen flickered suddenly, displaying a creature unlike anything in Earth's records. It had 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern, brownish-gray skin, and mandibles that clicked as it studied the human crew. "Your vessel has entered Talon space," the alien said, its words translated through the ship's AI. "Identify yourselves immediately." Ji-won stepped forward. "I am Captain Han Ji-won of the Earth exploratory vessel Starlight. We are on a peaceful mission of scientific discovery and mean no harm. We were unaware this region was claimed territory." The alien's mandibles twitched in what the crew would later learn was amusement. "I am Commander Keth of the Talon Collective. Your ship is small. Is this truly the best humans can produce?" Several crew members exchanged glances, but Ji-won remained dignified. "The Starlight serves its purpose well. We value efficiency over size." Commander Keth made a dismissive gesture. "Primitive design. Your engines leak radiation, and your hull would barely withstand a meteor strike. How did you manage to travel this far?" Before Ji-won could respond, another alien joined Commander Keth on the screen. This one wore elaborate decorations on its uniform and spoke with authority. "Enough observations. You will board our command ship for proper diplomatic discussions. We have questions about your species and its capabilities." Ji-won hesitated only briefly. "We would be honored to establish diplomatic relations. Allow me to prepare a small delegation." When the transmission ended, the bridge erupted in nervous chatter. "Captain, you can't go over there," protested First Officer Lee Do-hyun. "We know nothing about them, and they've already shown contempt for us." Ji-won turned to her crew. "Their condescension works to our advantage. They've underestimated us, which gives us room to maneuver." She lowered her voice. "Min-ho, initiate protocol Sleeping Dragon. If we're not back in 6 hours, you know what to do." Engineer Park nodded solemnly. Soon, Ji-won and a team of 4 officers boarded a shuttle bound for the Talon command ship. As they approached, the true scale of the alien vessel became apparent, nearly 2 kilometers long with weapon systems that could easily destroy the Starlight with a single volley. Inside the Talon ship, the humans were led through vast corridors filled with alien crew members who stared or made clicking sounds as they passed. "They're laughing at us," whispered Communications Officer Kim Tae-shin. "Let them laugh," Ji-won replied quietly. "History is full of stories about those who underestimated their opponents." The delegation was brought to a grand chamber where 7 high-ranking Talons waited. Commander Keth's mandibles clicked rapidly as he addressed his colleagues. "These are the humans. Their technology is basic, their ship fragile. Yet somehow they've traveled beyond their star system without destroying themselves." Ji-won smiled politely through the insult. What the Talons couldn't know was that beneath the Starlight's unassuming exterior lay technology that Earth had kept secret for decades, technology that could rewrite the balance of power in this unexpected first contact. As the diplomatic discussions began, G1 recognized the familiar pattern of an assessment disguised as diplomacy. The Talons were measuring humanity's worth as allies, as threats, or perhaps as something else entirely. In the quiet town of Riverdale, tensions were brewing like a storm on the horizon. Emma Rodriguez, a local journalist, sat in her small office, surrounded by scattered photographs and old newspaper clippings. Her latest investigation was about to unravel a secret that would shake the entire community to its core. The town had always seemed peaceful, with its neat rows of houses and friendly neighbors. But beneath the surface, something was changing. Mark Thompson, the town's respected mayor, had been acting strange lately. Whispers of unusual land deals and secret meetings had been circulating for weeks. Emma's source, an anonymous city worker, had slipped her a file containing suspicious documents. The papers showed a complex web of property transfers that didn't make sense. Large pieces of land near the river were being bought up quietly, with money tracing back to companies no one had ever heard of. As she dug deeper, Emma discovered that these land purchases were connected to a massive development project. The river that had been the town's lifeline for generations was now at risk. Local farmers who had worked the land for decades were being pressured to sell their properties. Jack Miller, a third-generation farmer, was one of the most vocal opponents. His family's farm sat right in the middle of the proposed development area. He had been holding town meetings, rallying support from other landowners. His passion was infectious, and more residents were beginning to listen. The town was splitting into two camps. Some saw the development as a chance for economic growth, promising new jobs and modern infrastructure. Others, like Jack and Emma, believed it would destroy the town's heritage and natural beauty. Mayor Thompson tried to calm the growing unrest. He held a public meeting at the community center, promising prosperity and progress. But his words rang hollow to those who knew him best. Emma watched carefully as he spoke, noticing how he avoided direct questions about the land deals. Meanwhile, strange things were happening around town. Contractors began surveying land without proper permissions. Unmarked trucks started appearing on quiet country roads. The local police seemed reluctant to investigate, which only added to the community's suspicions. Emma's investigation was becoming dangerous. She received anonymous warnings, first a note tucked under her car windshield, then late-night phone calls telling her to back off. But she was not someone who scared easily. Her father, a journalist who had taught her everything she knew, had always said the truth was worth fighting for. Jack Miller became an unexpected ally. He had documents that proved some of Emma's theories about the land deals. Together, they began to piece together a story that was bigger than anyone in Riverdale had imagined. The turning point came during the town's annual summer festival. As families enjoyed barbecues and children played games, Emma and Jack planned their next move. They had evidence that could expose the truth about the development project and Mayor Thompson's involvement. But powerful people were watching. The mysterious companies behind the land purchases were not going to let a small-town journalist and a farmer derail their plans. The stakes were too high, and the money involved was too significant. As evening fell and the festival lights twinkled, Emma knew something big was about to happen. The tension in the town was like a rubber band stretched to its breaking point. One small push could change everything. She looked at Jack, who was studying some papers they had gathered. His weathered hands told a story of years of hard work and dedication to the land. Their eyes met, and they both understood the risk they were taking. The river flowed quietly nearby, unaware of the battle about to unfold. Riverdale stood at a crossroads, with its future hanging in the balance. Emma clutched her notebook, knowing that the next few days would determine everything. Little did the town know that their quiet summer was about to become a battleground of truth, power, and community spirit. The story was just beginning, and no one could predict how it would end. In the shadowy realm between hope and despair, Marcus stood at the edge of a critical decision. The city's night wrapped around him like a cold, unforgiving cloak, its darkness mirroring the turmoil in his heart. He had spent months planning this moment, a single gambit that could change everything. The abandoned warehouse loomed before him, its broken windows like empty eyes watching his every move. Inside, a dangerous network of criminals held secrets that could topple powerful people. Marcus knew the risks were enormous, but he had no other choice. His fingers traced the outline of a small device hidden in his jacket pocket, a tiny piece of technology that could unlock digital secrets and expose the criminal network's darkest operations. Years of careful investigation had led him to this precise moment, where one wrong step could mean certain death. 2 weeks earlier, Marcus had intercepted a coded message suggesting a massive illegal transaction was about to happen. The criminal syndicate believed their communication was untraceable, but Marcus had spent months building connections and gathering intelligence. He was a ghost in their system, moving silently and carefully. The warehouse's back entrance looked unguarded, but Marcus knew appearances were deceiving. He had studied the building's layout, identified blind spots, and calculated every possible scenario. Each breath was controlled, each movement calculated with surgical precision. Suddenly, a distant sound made him pause. Footsteps. Muffled voices. Someone was approaching. Marcus pressed himself against the cold brick wall, becoming almost invisible in the darkness. His heart raced, but his hands remained steady. The voices grew closer. 2 men, speaking in low tones about money and a shipment. Marcus recognized one of them, a mid-level operative he had been tracking for months. This was his chance, but he needed to be perfect. With surgical precision, he activated the small device in his pocket. Electronic signals began disrupting the warehouse's security systems, creating subtle glitches that would go unnoticed for crucial minutes. Years of preparation had led to this moment of precise execution. Inside the warehouse, computers flickered. Security cameras momentarily lost focus. And in those brief, precious seconds, Marcus slipped inside, moving like a shadow between massive shipping containers and stacks of unmarked crates. His objective was simple yet dangerous: retrieve digital evidence that would expose an international criminal network. Each step was calculated, each breath controlled. One wrong move could trigger alarms or alert the guards patrolling inside. Marcus knew the risks were astronomical. If caught, he would face certain death. But the potential to dismantle a criminal organization that had operated with impunity for years was worth everything. Justice demanded sacrifice, and he was prepared to pay that price. As he navigated through the warehouse's complex interior, fragments of conversations drifted around him. Discussions about illegal shipments, money laundering, and connections with powerful political figures. Each piece of information was another nail in the criminal network's coffin. His specialized device continued its silent work, creating digital distractions and collecting critical data. Encrypted files began transferring, revealing a web of corruption that stretched across continents. Marcus understood that this single moment could change everything. Suddenly, a flashlight beam swept nearby. Marcus froze, pressed against a metal container, holding his breath. The guard was just meters away, slowly scanning the area. One slight movement would reveal his position and end everything. Minutes felt like hours. The guard's footsteps echoed through the massive space. Marcus remained perfectly still, his training from years of covert operations now proving invaluable. Sweat formed on his forehead but did not move. Finally, the footsteps receded. Marcus had succeeded in remaining undetected. With the collected evidence secured, he began his careful retreat, knowing that the real challenge was yet to come: analyzing and using the information to dismantle the criminal network. As he slipped out of the warehouse into the night, Marcus allowed himself a brief moment of satisfaction. The gambit had worked. The first strike against a powerful, dangerous organization was complete. Here's part 4, Revelation, in approximately 800 words, written in third person with simple and basic English. The night was dark and cold when Marcus first discovered the truth. He stood in the abandoned warehouse, his hands trembling as he unfolded the old yellow document that would change everything he knew about his family's history. His grandfather's secret papers revealed a story that seemed impossible. Decades ago, during World War II, his grandfather had been part of a hidden resistance group in Eastern Europe. But this wasn't just another war story. The documents suggested something much more complex and dangerous. Marcus read through the carefully preserved pages, his eyes scanning each line with increasing intensity. The story told of a secret mission, a hidden treasure, and a promise made during the most dangerous times of human conflict. His grandfather had been tasked with protecting something extraordinary, not gold, not jewels, but a collection of scientific documents that could potentially change the world's understanding of technology. The warehouse around him seemed to grow quieter, as if listening to the unfolding revelation. Each page told a piece of a larger puzzle. His grandfather had been part of a small group of scientists and resistance fighters who wanted to prevent critical research from falling into the wrong hands during the war. As Marcus continued reading, he realized the documents described advanced technological concepts that were far ahead of their time. Blueprints and mathematical equations filled some pages, showing designs for machines and systems that seemed impossible for the 1940s. Some sketches looked like early versions of communication technologies that wouldn't be developed for decades. His hands were getting sweaty. The implications were massive. If these documents were genuine, they could rewrite technological history. But why had his grandfather kept them hidden? Why had he never shared this incredible story with his own family? The warehouse's shadows seemed to dance around Marcus, creating strange shapes that matched the complexity of the story he was uncovering. He could almost hear his grandfather's voice, telling him about the risks they had taken, the lives they had protected, and the knowledge they had preserved. One particular document caught his attention. It was a letter, written in a careful, precise handwriting. The letter spoke of a promise, a commitment to protect the research until the world was ready to understand it. His grandfather had sworn to keep these secrets safe, knowing that in the wrong hands, this information could be dangerous. Marcus realized he now carried that responsibility. The weight of the secret pressed down on his shoulders. He understood why his grandfather had been so careful, why he had hidden these documents so carefully that they were almost lost to time. Outside the warehouse, the wind started to pick up. A storm was brewing, as if nature itself was responding to the revelation Marcus was experiencing. He carefully folded the documents, understanding that he couldn't share this information with just anyone. Questions raced through his mind. Who else knew about these documents? Were there other people searching for this hidden knowledge? The resistance group his grandfather belonged to, did any of them still live? And most importantly, what should he do with this incredible discovery? Marcus knew he needed to be careful. The documents represented more than just historical information. They were a potential key to technological advances that could change the world. He would need to study them, understand them, and decide how to protect them. As dawn began to break, casting soft light into the warehouse, Marcus made a decision. He would continue his grandfather's mission. He would protect these secrets, study them carefully, and wait for the right moment to potentially share their contents with the world. The warehouse, which had been a silent witness to this moment of revelation, seemed to breathe a sigh of relief. Another generation would continue the important work started so many years ago. Marcus tucked the documents into his bag, his heart racing with excitement and a sense of profound responsibility. His life would never be the same. The secret he now carried was both a burden and an incredible opportunity. The first rays of sunlight broke through the warehouse windows, symbolizing a new beginning. Marcus walked out, knowing that his journey was just starting, and the greatest adventure of his life was about to unfold. The battle had reached its most critical moment. Sarah's team stood at the edge of a crumbling research facility, their last hope of stopping the devastating viral outbreak. The wind whispered through broken windows, carrying the faint echoes of past struggles. Dr. Elena Rodriguez gripped her modified electromagnetic pulse device, her hands steady despite the chaos around them. Years of research had led to this single moment, a chance to neutralize the deadly pathogen that had already claimed thousands of lives across the city. Mark, the team's tactical expert, scanned the perimeter. His eyes caught movement in the shadows, infected creatures that were once human, now transformed by the experimental virus. They moved with unnatural precision, their bodies twisted but purposeful. Sarah knew they had limited time. The virus was evolving faster than anyone had predicted. Each minute counted, each second could mean the difference between total annihilation and survival. She remembered the briefing from weeks ago, the desperate warnings from top scientists about the potential global catastrophe. Their plan was simple but incredibly risky. They would use a combination of electromagnetic disruption and a newly developed chemical compound to break down the virus's molecular structure. It was a one-shot opportunity that required perfect timing and absolute precision. The facility's old machinery hummed with an eerie energy. Broken computer screens flickered, casting strange shadows across the concrete walls. Elena began calibrating her device, her fingers dancing across complex control panels. Mark positioned himself near the main entrance, his specialized weapon ready to provide cover. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed through the building. Infected creatures began pushing against the sealed doors, their inhuman strength causing the metal to bend and groan. Mark shifted his weight, preparing for the inevitable breakthrough. Sarah took a deep breath. This was the moment everything would change. The virus had spread through major cities, turning normal people into aggressive, mindless beings. Governments had collapsed, communication networks had broken down, and humanity teetered on the edge of extinction. Elena's device started to pulse with a strange blue light. The electromagnetic waves began to resonate through the facility, creating a field that would potentially neutralize the viral agents. Mark kept watch, his eyes darting between the weakening doors and Elena's complex equipment. The infected creatures began to react. Their movements became erratic, almost confused by the energy waves washing through the building. Some collapsed, while others seemed to fight against an invisible force. Time seemed to slow down. Sarah watched as Elena made final adjustments, her face a mixture of concentration and hope. The device began to whine, building up energy that could either save humanity or completely fail. With a sudden burst of energy, the electromagnetic pulse erupted from the device. It swept through the facility like a wave, touching every corner, penetrating every molecular structure. The infected creatures stopped moving, their bodies suddenly lifeless. Mark checked his instruments. The readings were promising. The viral agents were breaking down, their complex structures collapsing under the precise energy waves. Elena allowed herself a small smile, their experimental approach was working. Outside, the city that had been a battleground of survival began to change. Streets that were once filled with chaos started to become quiet. The virus that had threatened to wipe out human civilization was being neutralized, piece by piece. Sarah walked to the window, watching the first signs of hope emerge. The team had done what seemed impossible. They had found a way to turn the tide against a threat that had pushed humanity to its absolute limit. As dust settled and equipment powered down, the three looked at each other. They weren't celebrating yet. They knew this was just the beginning of a long recovery. But for the first time in months, they felt something they had almost forgotten, the possibility of survival. The research facility stood as a testament to human resilience. One device, one moment, one extraordinary effort had potentially saved millions of lives. The tide had turned, and humanity had a fighting chance.